All right, hello guys. It's Shah Madavi here with Realbies.com, and you know what? It's very rare I bring someone outside of the real estate community onto Realbies, but I couldn't help myself today. I had to get you someone that was just like I would say, if you're looking at like the number one expert in anything related to social media and this one specific topic today, I got her. So I'm excited today to have her here. So let me read you a quick bio about Melanie. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into this special topic today, Pinterest, and why you need to be using it in your real estate business. So here we go. Melanie Duncan is the founder of the Entrepreneuress Academy, which is an online training site that teaches thousands of women across the world how to start and grow online businesses. She started her first business in college, and after struggling with trying to figure out how to get customers using the old way of marketing, she immersed herself in learning everything about online marketing from SEO, pay-per-click, and social media. Within a year, she went from having a business in debt to having a successful national brand. Melanie now owns several online businesses that produce over $2 million in annual revenue. Her businesses have been featured in New York Magazine and on top television shows like ABC's Good Morning America and NBC's The Nate Berkus Show. She is an international award-winning speaker and a leading expert on how to use social media's hottest new platform, Pinterest for Business. She lives in her favorite city in the world, New York City, and effectively manages her Southern California-based businesses remotely. What's going on, Melanie? Good morning.
Hi, Sean. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of fun today because, it's so funny. I talk to real estate agents all the time, and social media to them is like a kind of a waste of time because they have not figured out a way to really create that return on investment. And so you've got a lot of gurus out there that are doing the Facebook, and you've got and there's some good people out there, right, that are actually teaching you. But then it's kind of funny because it's like if I'm good at doing it, like if you see me on Facebook or if you see me on Pinterest or you see me on LinkedIn, I'm automatically qualified as an expert, and it's not true. So what I want to do today is I kind of read a little bit about your bio, but just tell us why Pinterest. What's the big deal with Pinterest right now? Because I am not a Pinterest user, I take that back. I'd use it a little bit, but why Pinterest? What's the big deal with Pinterest?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, such a good question. I always like to preface that first and foremost, I am a small business owner. I have a bunch of online businesses. We sell actual tangible hard goods. And I'm the same way. When it comes to social media, I have the same amount of overwhelm, the same amount of another platform, another update. What do I have to learn? What are all these things? So I can completely relate with a lot of business owners that just feel like, oh my gosh, not something else. And I think it's kind of funny to share. I actually was extremely skeptical about Pinterest in the beginning. I was doing Facebook, I was playing around with Twitter, still wasn't really sure what was going on with the whole Twitter thing. And Pinterest came on, and I thought, okay, I'll use this for my own personal use. I'll play around, pin some shoes I want to buy or some good recipes. But I was not using it to market my businesses. And when I heard of a few, other articles here or there, I was one of the first people kind of on the scene using it for business. But I was really skeptical. What actually got me convinced or got me interested in starting to use it as before I was even doing anything. I wish I said it was just epiphany that I had, but before I started doing anything, I noticed a big influx in orders and traffic to my site back in, I think it was back in March. February, March. And so I logged into my Google Analytics, and I'd been doing a lot of online marketing strategies. I was doing pay-per-click, I was really working on some SEO strategies, and wasn't seeing a lot of return from them. So when I saw this big bump in sales, I obviously wanted to figure out what was at the root of it. And Pinterest had seemingly kind of overnight become one of my top 10 traffic referral sources. And I wasn't even doing anything. It was from other people that had started pinning my products online. I thought,
Oh wow.
okay, if this is getting some traction and I'm not even applying any time or energy to it, and I'm putting all my time and energy in these other places and not getting any return for it, obviously as a business owner, it was a pretty easy decision to make, like, hey, I think I need to, reallocate some of my resources here and spend some time learning about Pinterest, testing, researching. So I kind of dove in head first early of spring 2012 and very quickly was able to identify some best practices, some things that I knew as a marketer, that was working in other spaces like call to actions or different types of imagery with buttons. And I started testing that on the Pinterest platform, and it was very easy to identify what worked and what didn't. So I
Mm.
started back in, let's see, I think it was late March. I started teaching other business owners kind of what I was doing, what was working. They started getting great results regardless of industry. I always like to say that. Although I did start promoting my product-based businesses, I then started to use it to drive traffic and actually build my list for a service-based business, and worked with other business owners that were in service-based businesses as well. And so I was able to identify not only does this work for product-based, but service as well. So that's my background with Pinterest. It was something that actually I just kind of stumbled across, was very skeptical in the beginning, but hey, when something works, I mean, you do everything you can to really learn and optimize that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll talk to a business owner or an entrepreneur agent, and they'll say, well, it's almost like a hobby at first, like it's something that I like to do, and it seems like hobbies are the hardest thing to find out how to monetize because they
Right?
like to spend money in their hobby, right? Or like to spend their
Yeah.
time in the hobby, and typically the money that they invest or the time that they invest, it kind of thwarts their ability to actually monetize and think big picture on how I can use this hobby
Sure.
to really make money and make revenue. So let's kind of go full circle because it's weird. Real estate agents, and I've talked to a couple of so-called experts, and they
Mhm.
said that using Pinterest is illegal for real estate,
Right.
and there's certain things that you can't do, and using links and this. So what I want to do today, I want to take this time, and because you are the expert, and I've talked to some other people, and they say, listen, Melanie's got this down to a science. Kind of walk us through some, give dispel some of the rumors, if you will, about Pinterest and how and specifically how you're using Pinterest to just dominate online in your in with what you're doing.
Sure, sure. And I do, it's really funny. The whole legal issue, all of that is still floating around for a lot of people. Back when I
Hmm.
started teaching Pinterest, like I said, it was back in March. That's when there was that one article on the internet that it was like, lawyer deletes all Pinterest boards. Like everyone was like on every webinar, or they were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, am I going to lose my house? What's going on? And, it's media.
Yeah.
Is there a risk to anything you're doing online? Absolutely. As an entrepreneur, there's always risk to something. But I do think that unfortunately, it's kind of human nature to have an opportunity like Pinterest where there is so much potential. I mean, it's crazy. Any of the stats about Pinterest now about how much revenue, it refers more revenue per click than Facebook or Twitter. It has an average higher income for the demographic than any
Mm.
other social media platform. They're saying now that like an average click-through sale from Pinterest is $180 versus like 70 from Twitter and 80 from Facebook. There's all
Wow.
of this data, this actual data that's showing us why Pinterest is the first kind of commerce-driven social media platform. And I'm just as guilty as anyone else. We hear one little thing, one little negative thing, like that one article. What most people don't know is way back in, I think she published that article in maybe February or January. Um, One of the co-founders, Ben Silverman, actually contacted her and kind of explained like how they were protected from the legal issues, why they had certain things stated the way they did in their terms of service, and she actually retracted her statement. So that one article that was everywhere and freaked everyone out was retracted. But do you hear about that?
Yeah. No.
No, no, no.
No, we don't hear
Everyone
about
for
that.
eternity is going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be sued because of Pinterest.
Yeah.
The truth is, honestly, the type of imagery and what's being used, and you're pinning other people's content, and they're like, oh, photographers are freaking out. It's the exact same thing that most people are doing on blogs.
Hmm.
They're taking someone else's imagery, they're putting it on their website, and then you're supposed to be giving some sort of referral link, either having that image link back to whoever you got it from, either stating the source. You want to always be respectful of other people's content. One of the main strategies I teach on Pinterest is that you really should be creating your own original content. That's where you have the most ability to leverage, is if you're creating the content you're putting on there, because then you can link that back to your site, you can build value, you can brand yourself. I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself, but the thing is, the strategies I teach most of the time don't even involve using other people's content in the first
Hmm.
place. But when it comes to pinning other people's stuff, which you're most likely going to do on the Pinterest platform, I'll give you a little secret. Over 80% of pins on Pinterest are actually repins. 80%. So the majority of people on Pinterest, all they do is just circulate what's already on there. So that's one of the reasons my main strategies is to teach people how to create content to put on Pinterest, because then you've got 80% of people doing the work for you, doing the circulation. We talked about business owners thinking another social media thing. One of the myths I like to debunk is, or maybe it's not a myth, a lot of people are used to typical social media platforms where you're updating every 3 hours because everything is kind of being pushed down the page throughout the day. Well, Pinterest actually works in a lot more of a circular manner where once you put something on the platform or someone pins something, there's so much recirculation of that content that you don't have to worry as much about spending, these little minutes, this time every 3 hours to get new content, fresh content out there, which can become very monotonous and kind of a time suck for us business owners who are trying to be remembering or scheduling to have these updates, every 3 hours.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's very different about Pinterest is the fact that the content is recirculated a lot on the platform. So when it comes to legal issues, I say, hey, you want to avoid being sued by someone for using their content? Just post your own content. But also, I've worked with thousands of business owners that do post other people's content, that do, repin stuff. Never heard of a single problem ever. And in most cases, anytime I've heard of someone repinning or doing something, as long as you're using your common sense and you're not trying to steal someone's content and, scrape off their logo and pretend like it's yours, people love you getting promotion for them. I mean, I don't know a single business owner that's like, oh my God, no, please don't put my product in front of your audience. That would be awful. It's really, we got to kind of go back to a common sense here that as long as you're using your head and not trying to swipe other people's stuff, the legal issues are very minimal, I would say.
I knew this guy. He was he was he did this little recording, and I felt bad because I actually posted it for a while because I thought it was like ninja, and it was so stupid of me. But what he was doing is he was teaching agents how to take a picture that they found on Pinterest
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
repinning it, but putting their link to their listing.
Mm.
And I was like, at first, I was like, man, that's a great way to drive traffic back to your site. But then when I found that was is that a term? That's a terms of service violation, isn't it? Is that a bad thing to do?
Well, it depends. Where was the image from? Was it something that he personally had taken,
No, no,
or?
no. He was like going on and repinning and then putting the links on there. I don't know exactly what he was doing, but I know it was bad, and a lot of people were saying it was bad. And so, so, what are some of the things that you should not be doing on Pinterest? What should you not be using Pinterest for? And then let's segue into real estate agents because
Sure.
that's our demographic. That's who's watching. Let's show them how to. Let's give them a cool little trick that they can use. And here's a deal. I know you and I are doing a special presentation, and there's going to be a link somewhere on this page. So if you're watching right now, wait to register for that because Melanie's gonna go through and really kind of open up her business on how she's used Pinterest and how you can use it in your real estate business. So tell us some of the things that you should not be using Pinterest for, and then we'll segue right into how an agent can dominate.
Right. Well, one of the things you definitely should not do, and this kind of goes back to the copywriting we were just talking about, is if you're pinning something from someone else's site, so you find a great picture, an infographic somewhere else online, you decide to pin it, you definitely don't want to edit it and add a link so that it just goes straight to your website.
Okay,
A lot of people will do that because it is important to have pins that link back to your site because that's how you're going to get traffic.
Mhm.
If you're just repinning other people's stuff, it's a really common mistake I see business owners do is, they're all excited about, okay, Pinterest drives traffic. So they set up their Pinterest account and they just start repinning other people's stuff. And they don't change links or anything. They just repin, content that's already out there. And they contact me and they're like, I'm not getting any traffic. Like, what's the deal? I'm on Pinterest, not getting any traffic. And I go, okay, well, how many pins do you have that are linking to your site, that are from your blog posts, that are your listings, that are videos that you're actually your original content that you can send to your site? And they're like, well, none. I've just been, I got on and then I followed some people and I repinned their stuff. And I was like, okay, well, let's break this down a little bit. So the only way to, or not the only, but the best way to get traffic from Pinterest is to have your pins. People are going to click through to take them to the original source, and we want to get them to your site. So
Yeah.
you've got to have pins that link to your site to get traffic to your site. And I'm being kind of silly about this because it seems pretty obvious, but I think a lot of people, they forget that step of, hey, I've got to have stuff that links to my site to get the traffic.
Yeah.
It's not just to have a page and, be pinning other people's stuff and thinking that people are going to see your pins, go to your profile, see what your website name is. Google. I mean, people, it's either we're lazy or we're just too darn busy. We want it to be easy, like one click. We want to figure out what's on the other side. So I always encourage people, if you're repinning other people's stuff, first of all, don't swipe it and put your link in without giving them credit. Now, if you are sending them to a blog post where you're going to give them a full citation, that's okay. But you definitely don't want to just be hijacking people's content on Pinterest. But I think the second biggest mistake to kind of piggyback on that is you got to be pinning your own stuff. You've got to be pinning articles that are eventually adding back, driving traffic back to your site to be able to get them in that funnel, to be able to get that ultimate sale or sign up, whatever your desired conversion is.
Yeah, and I don't think it's silly at all because I look at it. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, we're talking about generating leads and traffic to your site,
Mm-hmm.
period. And this is, you said it's the number one, or it's the number one source of traffic through any social media site, right? So it's like the biggest one. So if you just look at it in the sense of like simple direct response, I'm going to put up a landing page with a video and an opt-in form and a title and a subtitle and some text. If we're just going to drive leads, we wouldn't take someone else's video and put it on that page. We
Right.
wouldn't take someone else's content. We would make that segmented to what we're offering. So it's smart. I get that. So real estate agents
Mm-hmm.
are dying to know how I can use, and this is it. How do I use Pinterest to sell more properties?
Right, right. And I have a special place in my heart for realtors because when I started out, I was, teaching Pinterest to a lot of different industries. And the realtors were the first kind of group that stepped up and were like, hey, we've been on Pinterest. It's all houses, it's all homes. Like, how do we leverage this? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great question. So I started working with more realtors, testing things out. Everything I teach, I really try to actually put in the groundwork and figure out, what is this actually going to mean? I don't want to just teach theory. I want to teach tactics that I'm familiar with. And so I worked with a lot of realtors, and something we discovered is, first of all, the most obvious thing is to pin your listings. That's, of course, a no-brainer. But what happens is a lot of realtors will pin their listings, and then either the listing will sell or, that's taken off the market. And then these realtors end up with this Pinterest board with these listings that people click on, and it doesn't go anywhere, or it's just
Mm,
like this listing has been removed. And that's a huge no-no. You don't, especially as you're building your follower base, you want people to always associate you with value. They don't want to think, well, I'm not going to click on that listing because 9 times out of 10, that realtor is not even an active listing. So something I really encourage realtors to do is either if you have your site set up a certain way, kind of programming on the back end, or even if you just go in manually and change a link after you've pinned a listing, it will go viral. Other people will repin it, so you can go in at any time and change where it links to. But I'd really encourage you to have something set up on your site that whenever a listing comes down or it's sold, you have either suggested listings like, hey, if you're interested in this property, this one's been sold, but here are other similar listings. Or even just have, if that's, too much programming on your end, everyone's at different levels, but even having something that pops up that's maybe like your opt-in form, like, hey, we saw, we're so glad you're interested in this listing. We'd love the opportunity to be able to, help you more one-on-one and find out another listing that would work for you or find a home for you, something, some sort of value building exchange, and get their contact information. Because whenever you have a click through, whenever someone has clicked through your listing, I mean, that's gold. They're already a warm lead, they're interested. So you don't want to just have them land on a page where they're like, nothing there. So I
that
often
is that's clutch.
set up either a suggested listing or just another way to be like, hey, we'd love to work with you further. Why don't you give us your contact information? We'll put together XYZ for you. But don't miss out on that hot lead.
No, I love that. That is like so refreshing to hear you say that because that is smart. And in being a marketer, an online marketer is, you leave tracks, right? You
Right.
leave trails of what you're doing, and they're all online.
Yep.
And sometimes when the trail ends, if you know, and I teach this, if you build a trail that goes to an offer and the offer closes, I cannot tell you how much I and this used to be something that was in our industry, that like the online marketing, because I do a lot
Right.
of online consulting as well. Is if you've ever seen it where like you see an old promotion and you go to the page and there's like nothing there, or the links don't work, and so
Yep.
you've got to close that trail down or take that trail and open it up to something else. And I love how
Yep.
you that suggestion of having like a blog, like a page on their site where they've got other listings where they can go and search other listings. It's really smart. So
Yeah.
tell us about, we're coming up to the end, and again, this is like awesome that you're doing this, because there's not a lot of true, experts out there that are really doing this in their business, and can really say, I've made money from this, that are actually out there teaching. I love what you've done is you've taken what was once a hobby, you've shown how to monetize that hobby, but at the same time, you said this is not just a hobby that was a kind of theory. This is some stuff that I was making money in my business.
Hmm.
So you have created a system, and we're going to talk. I don't want to go too much in that right now. I don't want to let too much go, but let's talk about the system, and then let's also talk about what we're going to talk about on the special presentation that you're going to do, because I'm stoked about it.
Me too. I'm very excited. So the system, there's a lot of different things I do. What I really focus on is there's so many small little areas to utilize opportunity on Pinterest that people just aren't doing, either because they're not really aware of it. But I'm a big believer in a lot of small things add up to something big. So there's a lot of techniques I teach, like about certain things to do in your captions, certain ways to lay out your images in terms of pixel sizes, in terms of the sequencing, in terms of what to say, what to put in an image, and how to complement that with the caption or the area below the text. Or below the image, that really can help you with creating backlinks, that can really help you with searchability, that can really help you with actually driving traffic, increasing click through. So you can tell I have, my background is pretty extensive in online marketing. So I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the tactics that have worked everywhere else. And then I've tested all of them and found what are the gems that can lead to higher click throughs, more repins, more shares, and ultimately more sales. Like, what can you do on the other side once you've got that click and they're on your site? How do you, build that? How do you build your brand? How do you build, especially for realtors? You're talking about a very big emotional purchase, a home, or those in the real estate industry that maybe work in financing or mortgage or that type of stuff. How do you take something like financing or credit or something, very kind of meaty and intimidating, and how do you put it on Pinterest in front of, it's still around, I think it's like 65% women. We're getting more and more men all the time, but it's still predominantly female based. How do you take something like mortgages and make that sexy? How do you
Yeah.
make that something that people want to read about? And there are ways to do it. So something I really specialize in is even service-based businesses. So in service-based businesses in the, realtor realm, how do you put that on Pinterest and make that something that people are really going to respond to? And there's ways to do that. So that's a lot of what I teach. And there is something like, for instance, I'll just give you guys a little sneak preview. Something very important for all realtors to understand is if you're not adding prices to your pins and you pin a listing without a price, people will have no idea that it's a listing, because there
Mm.
thousands, probably millions of pictures of homes on Pinterest, because there's, home decor blogs, people are pinning pictures from Architectural Digest. So there's all these beautiful pictures of homes. And a big mistake I see a lot of realtors making is they just pin their listings without adding prices because they don't know how to add a price to a caption. When you add a price to a caption, a big banner actually will show up on the top left corner of the pin, and it lets people know this is something that is for sale. This is something I can buy. And people really like that. I mean, we see pins with prices have way more likes. People enjoy understanding a clear message of, hey, this is for sale. But most realtors don't even know how to add a price to a caption and to get that good banner. And without it, their listings don't get click-throughs because people don't realize it's something actually for sale. So that's something that we'll be teaching on that presentation together, is how do you even add prices to a caption so you get that great banner and people will understand this is a live listing.
I can't wait. I can't wait, because this is going to be awesome. I just can't wait to show agents how this works. And you know, and I appreciate alignment. I always talk about one of the things I talk about in most of these interviews is alignment, and I
Mm,
think it's important for agents to be aligned with people that are actually doing this stuff in their business. So it's an honor to be aligned with you, Melanie, and I'm honored to just have you aligned with the agents that are watching this interview today, and everyone that's on the Realbies mailing list is going to get, you know, just going to be privy to this content as well. So it's pretty exciting. So, well, great. So the links to the interview, or I'm sorry, the links to the webinar are going to be above and below the video. So go ahead and click one right now. And do us a huge favor, share this video. We want agents all over. Pin it. Pin this
in
video.
the video.
I have a Pinterest actually button somewhere up here. So pin this,
Somewhere,
yeah,
find it. It's
somewhere
here
fun.
somewhere.
Yeah, because another thing, you know, we haven't talked about is, you know, you can pin videos.
Hmm.
I know you're probably going to talk about how I get people to follow my boards and stuff like that, because I don't know any of that stuff, and I just can't wait to learn myself. So I'm probably going to be the first person to buy the product once you give me just give me a link, or maybe you'll give me some back access to it. I'd love to see that. But I really appreciate you coming on today, Melanie, and guys that are watching this video. There's some Facebook comments below. Here's the cool thing about Facebook. Melanie's on Facebook is she might not be able to see these comments. So if you have some questions or something below, send some questions. Pin this video, you know, share it, whatever you need to do, and you know, let some other people know about Pinterest because it's not going anywhere, right? It's not going anywhere.
It's
And
not.
so, do you have any last words for anybody that's watching the video?
Yeah, I would just really encourage. I mean, I have a heart for service. I really put a lot of energy into really prepping my presentations because I know everyone's time is so valuable. You know, personally and also with all the business owners I work with, the number one thing there's never enough of is time. So if you're planning on, you know, blocking out an hour of your day to come and learn about this, I'm going to deliver for you. I'm going to make sure that everything is going to be very, very valuable for you and very easy to implement because I want you, my goal is at the end of that presentation to feel empowered and knowledgeable so you can start using Pinterest right away. I mean, I have clients that get incredible results in under a week. So it's a very exciting opportunity, but I want you to have a shortcut. You know, there's really no reason for you to try to go on Pinterest, figure it all out on your own. We're going to be able to give you some very important tips and strategies that only come from months of research and working with thousands of business owners and honing those best practices. So I'd really encourage you, if you're even remotely interested in learning about Pinterest, which you really should be in the real estate industry, it's one of those opportunities that if you miss out on, you're at a huge disadvantage. So I hope you'll join us on the webinar. I look forward to connecting with you, learning more, and hopefully giving you some great Pinterest tactics.
Awesome, awesome. We really appreciate you, Melanie. You appreciate your time, and looking forward to the content. It's going to be awesome. All
Me
right,
too.
guys, you heard it, guys. We'll get registered for the webinar, share this stuff, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.